nutrition is the hard part. You'll hear this oftentimes. People talk about how, oh, it's 80% nutrition and, the training is easy, the nutrition is the hard part. When I hear people say that, it makes me wonder, what are you doing for training? Because training is definitely the hard part. I would much rather sit around and eat chicken and rice 8 times a day than get under a heavy bar and squat it to failure. I feel like maybe people aren't training very hard, and that's why nutrition becomes the hard part. That being said, for many people who are just interested in general fitness, nutrition can be the hard part. So I don't want you to think that I don't understand both sides of this equation. For those of you who are interested in high-level sport, your training is the hard part. It's just the way it is. I don't care if we're talking about judo or playing hockey or boxing or whatever. If your goal is to compete in high-level sport, your training is going to be hard. It's just the way it is. If you are interested in general fitness, then you don't have to get under that heavy bar, and you don't have to pull heavy deadlifts, and you don't have to run sprints at maximal intensity. You don't have to spend hours a day, practicing skills and drills. It's, that's not part of it. General fitness, you can just do very reasonable workouts and still make progress. And so for you, the nutrition side is going to be harder than the training. But what I find interesting about this is it always comes from guys who, they're trying to compete in powerlifting or weightlifting or whatever, and they're like, oh my gosh, the eating is so hard. And this goes in multiple directions. So you have one group of people who complain it's too hard for them to eat more. We live in a world filled with hyperpalatable foods. Most people have trouble because they eat too much. So if you're one of these guys that's 6'2" and 150 pounds and you can't understand why you can't gain weight, try eating more hyperpalatable foods. This is not something that I, invented. You can look up Seth Roberts, the Shangri-La diet. But this is a very simple concept. When you eat bland food, you're going to feel full. When you eat hyperpalatable food, shocker, you actually get hungrier. It's kind of like the whole thing that people talk about the Chinese buffet. You go to a Chinese buffet and you eat till you're full, and then you leave, and a half hour later you're hungry again. Because it's hyperpalatable. It's fucking delicious. No one has trouble eating a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. No one has trouble eating cheesecake. You can get down 1,000 calories of cheesecake very easily. You can get down 1,000 calories of ice cream very easily. It's not the same if you're trying to eat boiled chicken breast and broccoli, right? So one is bland and the other one is extremely hyperpalatable. So I'm giving you both sides of this equation here. For those of you who are struggling to gain weight, you're having trouble eating enough, put more seasoning. Put more spices on your food. Use hot sauce and mustard and ketchup and, ranch dressing, whatever the hell it is that you like, okay? Go ahead and add that to the food. But throw some blue cheese crumbles on it. Ooh, that's fantastic. I'm making myself hungry. Put some cheddar cheese on it. A steak and add some Parmesan and suddenly a little bit of salt and some pepper and oh, wow. It goes down faster, it goes down easier, and you're hungrier, okay? Fruit. Even fruit is something that is very sweet. You can eat a lot of fruit. You'd be surprised. And yes, it is satiating. It's better than you eating a Pop-Tart, right? Because it's got more volume to it. And so then again, now we're back to that equation here. Oh gosh, you could eat a whole bunch of Pop-Tarts because Pop-Tarts are more calorically dense. Basically, you're just going to do the opposite. You're going to purposely eat low volume, calorie dense foods, and you will gain weight. The other side of this equation is much more, it's significantly complex. trying to eat less is, you're dealing with the fact that we live in an environment that is filled with hyperpalatable foods. On top of that, you're trying to regulate satiety and hunger. And of course, people have learned behaviors. So here's something interesting for you to consider. When animals are stressed, they stop eating. Stress your dog out, your dog will stop eating. A stressed animal loses its appetite. But yet, in our society, our environment, our culture, when we're stressed, we eat. Why? It's a learned behavior. Maybe you had a bad day at school and mom gave you some chocolate chip cookies to make you feel better. You lost the baseball game, and so dad took you out for ice cream to make you feel better. The doctor gave you a vaccine, so here's a lollipop. Because you got poked with a needle, here's a lollipop. These are things that teach us, and it becomes a learned behavior. I had to get a blood draw when I was 5, so they gave me a pretzel afterwards. What? Yes, that's exactly what we do, though. I'm not making this up. That's actually a true story there. They did a blood draw when I was a child, and I remember they gave me a pretzel afterwards. If you're good, we'll give you a pretzel. Because that's fucking great. A pretzel. I remember this one time I was a child. I had to get stitches, and they held me down and stitched me up. And they gave me a lollipop afterwards. Because that just makes everything all better, doesn't it? So we have learned behaviors, and so we turn to food to make ourselves feel better, even though the biological, physiological process is that normally when you're stressed, you would lose your appetite. Now, I consider myself fortunate, because I am one of those people that when I'm stressed, I lose my appetite. Under enough stress, I'll stop eating altogether, because I can't even bear the thought of eating something. I have been there. I have been in situations that were so stressful, I just stopped eating because I could not face food. It was like I would sit down and I'd take one bite and I'd be like, I think I'm going to vomit. I can't force this down. Now, those were extreme circumstances, okay? Very extreme circumstances. But the reality is that, yes, some of us are still impaired by that, human 1.0 programming on our brains. And, so when we're stressed, we don't eat. But the majority of people eat to cope, right? They're stressed out, so they have, I'm going to reward myself with whatever, Applebee's, Burger King, McDonald's, something like that. And the nutrition should not be this hard. It really shouldn't. We've overcomplicated it to such an extreme degree. So, as I've discussed before in the past, okay, the trick to you eating less, and this is going to suck for a little bit, but I promise if you can stick with it, if you can force yourself to stick with it just for 2 weeks, which is not a long time, your palate will change. So, you're going to eat plain foods. And that doesn't mean you can't eat a variety of foods. It just means that you're not going to add a whole bunch of flavors to things. So you're going to drink water instead of drinking diet soda. You're going to have your meat, whatever it is, chicken, pork, beef, eggs, whatever, without adding seasoning and flavoring and all this stuff like that. You're going to eat your vegetables without dumping tons of salad dressing on them. Yes, everyone loves to have broccoli when you put cheese on it. No one likes to have broccoli by itself. You like to have a salad. Well, when was the last time you had a salad and just put apple cider vinegar on it? Probably don't. You probably get out that blue cheese dressing or that Thousand Island dressing and dump that on there. Yeah, that's good. Man, I'll tell you what, if I go to Olive Garden, I can eat that endless salad till the food arrives. I'll just keep eating it. It's delicious. Whatever they put in that dressing is just, it's fantastic. you can get a ton of calories down from salad dressing. Yeah, it's like 70 calories of vegetables, but like 500 calories of dressing. The solution here is to rewire your palate. So you're going to stop eating these things that taste great, and you're going to eat bland food. You're going to have like a baked potato without the sour cream and the chives. You're going to have a sweet potato, but you're not going to put brown sugar and cinnamon and butter on it, right? That is going to rewire your satiety and hunger. And so nutrition is still complex, it's still hard, right? But when we oversimplify it on purpose and we eat single ingredient foods, I want you to do this sometime, but just try it. Sit down and eat cottage cheese by itself. Don't add anything to it. You're going to feel full very fast. Sit down and eat Greek yogurt by itself. Like plain Greek yogurt. You're going to feel full very fast. It's weird. But, if you add a whole bunch of stuff to it, you add some strawberry jam to it or whatever, you put some fruit in it, you add some stevia or some sugar or whatever, suddenly you can eat a whole lot more of it. This is just how our brains are wired. The more flavorful and palatable a food is, the more of it we'll eat unconsciously. And this is even found in other weird contexts, like the size of your plate, the color of your plate. Like, this isn't stuff that I invented. This is me just telling you what other people's research has found for us. The size of your plate, certain colors make you eat more. If you're eating while you're distracted, yeah, it's weird. I will sit down and have dinner with my wife, and the two of us will just sit with each other. It's the radical concept. Like people have never done this in the history of mankind. Two people sit down and just have a meal together, and our entertainment is talking to each other. You'll eat less than you would if you were sitting down in front of the TV eating, because that TV has you completely distracted. It's mindless. Now you're not even thinking about the food. But my wife and I will sit down and we'll have dinner together, and we'll talk to each other, and I'm like, I feel full. But if I ate that same meal while I was watching a movie or watching TV or watching the news even, because the news is great. It gets you all riled up. It's designed to attract you. They don't want to make the news boring. No one will watch it. You're so entranced by what you're watching that suddenly you forget all about what you were eating, and you're like, oh, wow, I'm already done with all this. You can sit there and mindlessly eat a bag of chips, no problem. You can probably put down 1,000 calories in potato chips and not even realize that you've done it because you were so entranced by the movie that you were watching. You're eating popcorn at the movie theater, and you'd finish the whole thing, and you're like, wow, I don't even feel full. Yeah, it's mindless eating. You would not be able to do that if all you did was sit down and have your meal. Just small things make a huge difference. Eating bland food, plain food, with less seasonings and spices and flavorings and stuff like that, even artificial flavorings, yes. I'm not sitting here telling you, this isn't a video about how, aspartame causes cancer. This is a video telling you that aspartame tastes good, so therefore when you have aspartame in something, you're going to eat more or drink more of it. Shocker. It tastes good, so I ate more. When was the last time you overate something that didn't taste good? Think about that for a minute. You're like, plain Brussels sprouts. Man, I binge on plain Brussels sprouts all the time. The reason I'm fat is because I just can't stop eating plain Brussels sprouts. You've never heard someone say that. You've never had someone say to you, gosh, I have binge eating disorder, and it's because I eat asparagus. I'll sit down and have like 5,000 calories of asparagus in like 2 hours. No one's ever said that to you. No one's ever done that. People, they overeat the hyperpalatable foods. I probably shouldn't share this story, but I'm just going to assume that, listen, I'm a zero channel. No one watches this fucking channel. except for my friends or people who know me personally. So that's why I can say just about anything on here. And I'm going to assume this person doesn't watch me because this person doesn't like me. I worked with an athlete once who called me at like 2 o'clock in the morning and was like, hey, I have a crisis. And I was like, what's the crisis? And they were like, my brother's birthday is tomorrow and I ate his entire birthday cake. It's binge eating disorder is what this person had. And they ate an entire birthday cake by themselves. Dairy Queen ice cream birthday cake thing. Ate the whole thing. So at 2 a.m. they were on their elliptical doing cardio to work it off after they even threw it up and everything. So we've got a very complex situation there, right? That didn't surprise me though. I was like, well, yeah. Like if I had a Dairy Queen birthday cake, I probably would eat the whole thing too. Like it's fucking delicious. I would eat more than is even comfortable. I'd probably be so full. And I'd be like, but this is so good. I would eat the whole damn thing. I understand. If you tell me, oh gosh, I binged on fucking Dunkin' Donuts or Krispy Kreme donuts. I went to Krispy Kreme and they had the hot ones that were like fresh out. Yeah, I understand why you'd ever eat that. That makes sense. We all would. If you called me up at 2 a.m. and you're like, you won't believe what I just did. I'm like, what's that? And you tell me, I just ate 5,000 calories of broccoli, just plain boiled broccoli. I'd be like, we got bigger problems. No one would ever do that. That's disgusting. I eat Brussels sprouts, just plain Brussels sprouts. No one does that. So the nutrition side of things is it's overcomplicated because of the fact that we live in a hyperpalatable environment. And so my solution to you is to oversimplify on purpose. Eating single ingredient foods, eating while you're not distracted, okay? And my other piece of advice to you, and you're going to hate this because the science-based people say it doesn't matter. My advice to you is to have evenly spaced meals. Yeah, I know. Everyone's like, oh no, that's not true. You can just eat 1 meal a day or you can have 2 meals a day. It's all the same. Yeah, sure, it's all the same in a study where people are limited on the number of calories. So we're going to cap the calories at 2,000. So it doesn't matter if you eat 2,000 calories in 1 meal or you eat 2,000 calories across 6 meals. That's the same difference, sure. That doesn't tell me anything about eating behavior because eating is a behavior. This isn't just a math equation. If you have evenly spaced meals and you are consistent about your evenly spaced meals, yeah, that's something interesting. Consistency. You know what happens to me at 4 o'clock? Like 3:45 actually. Almost like perfectly. At 3:45, I feel hungry. I could be taking a nap, and I will wake up and look at the clock, and it's 3:45, and I'm like, yeah, I'm hungry, because I know my meal's at 4. I don't even need an alarm clock. My body says, hey, it's time to wake up. It's time to eat. 7:30 in the morning, I wake up without an alarm, and I look at the clock, and I'm like, oh, it's like 7:30 on the dot. Almost every day, I'm hungry. Why? Because if you eat your meals at the same time every day, you get hungry at the same time every day. So the solution is to use that to your advantage and have evenly spaced meals. So, you know your schedule, make it work for you. Okay? So, you eat at 8, 10, 12, 2, and 4. Maybe you have something else at 6. And you space them out evenly. And your body gets used to it. And now your hunger is actually regulated because you get hungry at the times where you eat. And if you eat the same meals over and over again, your body gets used to that too. I'm not even talking it has to be the exact same meal. Just like I have meat and vegetables for this meal. It doesn't matter. You have chicken one day, you have beef another day. The point is that you're eating roughly a 500-calorie meal each time. Okay. Your body gets used to that. Now you feel satiety. When you change things all the time, your body doesn't have anything to get used to. I know that's bro science. Oh, bro science. Yeah, it might be bro science, but you know what? This isn't a science equation. This isn't a math equation. A lot of this stuff comes down to behavior. Why do you do the certain things that you do? I don't know. There's some psychological explanation to it, but a lot of it is just habit and pattern. So much of our behavior is habit. We don't even realize how much of it we do. And so this is my advice to you on making the nutrition the easy side of the equation is basically create a routine. oversimplify it. Single ingredients and eat on a schedule. It really is that easy. And then in the opposite direction, for those of you who are struggling to gain weight, this actually works in the opposite direction. You just have to eat different foods. You should eat more hyperpalatable foods that are low in volume and very high in calories. And for you to lose weight, you eat foods that are high in volume and low in calories. It really isn't that complex. I think the reason it becomes overcomplicated is because there's so many people online telling you different things. And now these keto guys are suddenly becoming anti-keto guys, and the vegans are becoming anti-vegans, and it's all over the place. There's so many voices at once. It's no wonder that people are confused. I'd be confused too if I listened to other people, but I don't. Because I look at those people and I'm like, that guy sounds like he has an eating disorder. I'm not going to take eating advice from him. It's kind of like Jim Wendler once said, I don't take lifting advice from people who look like they don't lift. I don't listen to nutrition advice from people who sound like they have some kind of problem. They demonize foods and they talk in absolutes. There are no absolutes. Sorry, folks. I wish there were. It would make life easier, wouldn't it? Everything's binary. It's good or bad. But what's good for me might be bad for you. What's good for you might be bad for me. I can't eat certain foods. Maybe you can. And that's totally fine. That's totally fine. You got to find what works for you. But the one rule that stays pretty consistent here is if you eat bland foods, they're more filling, higher satiety. You eat hyperpalatable foods, they're less filling, lower satiety. And that's just how we're wired. So, anyways, I hope this is useful.